2023 in the Always Sunday Fantasy Football League, despite what you may have read. As we enter our 11th season, our league is yet another new home this year on Sleeper. The draft went smoothly, the app is pretty easy to use, and so far everyone seems satisfied with the new platform. The most notable new feature is the in-app chat. Never before has the league had such an easy and efficient way to communicate, and we are already seeing some interesting results from this new feature. Trash talk is at an all-time high in the Always Sunday League. Newcomer Luis has burst onto the scene with brash recklessness that can't possibly backfire on him immediately. Quickly striking up rivalries with fellow Baldwin Division teams Beer Muscles and Sizzler, Luis has set the stage for an epic showdown that we'll cover in just a little bit. Also in this episode, we'll talk injuries already, give a look ahead at our programming schedule for the season, and cover a few other key matchups we've got our eye on. But first, let me welcome in my co-hosts. Danny, how you doing, buddy?
Hey, what's up?
Johnny,
how are you, Dave?
I'm doing very well, thank you. John, how you doing down there in the facility?
Doing great.
Anthony, thanks for joining me from the facility.
Yes.
The other similarly appointed facility.
Yeah, I mean, we're
right
the
next to each
Jersey
other.
facility, and that's the Florida one. Similar.
Very similar. We did little McMansion facilities. This week, our topics, the first thing we'll talk about really quickly is the overall power rankings coming out of the draft preseason. These power rankings were put out into the league chat, and if you haven't seen them, we're looking at them right now. Number one team is Sweep the Leg. Number two power ranked team is the Golden Showers. Then the Gotham Rogues. Then Team Blumpkin. Then the Kirk Stillwater Gang. I got that right. Then That's What She Said. Then Beer Muscles. Sizzler. Run CMC, which is the wackest name possible. Well, we'll see about that. Then it's the Drunken Bums. Then it's PBJ. And then it's the 2023 Champ. Fellas. Well, let's throw it over to Johnny first. Johnny, when you look at this power rankings, what's the first thing that surprises you?
Oh, how lowly ranked I am.
And we mentioned that in the previous episode that you did sort of try to stuff the ballot box in your favor, and you still came out number 11. How does that make you feel? You tried to slant the voting towards yourself, and you still came out number 11 out of 12. What do you have to say?
Well, I'll tell you what. I actually ranked myself lower than the previous podcast after the trade with Anthony. So I'm kind of looking at the long game right now. I actually think that my power ranking went back actually 2 spots.
2 spots. So now you're ranked 13 out of 12.
Well, I'm talking about like where I rank myself.
Gotcha. Anthony, when you take a look at this power ranking, is there anything that jumps out at you? Don't anything jumps off the page?
I think I'm a little further back, and same thing with Jay, but I do like that the biggest trash talker is dead last. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, huh? Interesting. It's interesting that you bring that up. We'll get more on the trash talk in a minute, but right now, Danny, you don't have the power ranks in front of you right now, but did you get a chance to peruse them by any chance?
I did. I didn't see the overall, but I saw the individual, like the position.
Okay. Is there anything that struck you notable?
Where was Jay's team ranked?
Excuse me?
Where was Jay's team ranked?
Jay's
fifth.
Jay was ranked number 5 overall power ranking.
Okay, no, that's not the same. Not that much. I mean, wasn't that many surprises. I expected you to be a little higher, Ant.
I expected myself, and I didn't realize that Dave was so high, and I think that was our own doing with our receivers ranking. But yeah, I mean, I think it's all fairly close.
I think that my biggest takeaway from the power rankings is that there's not really a team that we all agree on is the best team. There's not a team that's head and shoulders better than any other team. I don't think that even the teams that are ranked low are not mutually agreed upon low. They're all over the place. As that's why I did the heat map, so that you could kind of see visually where these teams ranked on a per position basis. Because I think this year, at least to start, we're coming from a very sort of flat playing field. There's a lot of parity, as it were. And I think that, unlike previous years where there might be some lopsidedness in some direction or another, or some haves and have-nots coming out of the draft, I think this year it's anybody's ball game coming into week one. I think that was my biggest takeaway, and I like that. I like that thing. There's certain things though coming into a season that you don't want. So let's go into our next segment. It's called Not What You Want. The first thing I want to talk about is the preseason injuries. Okay, the first thing we need to discuss right off the bat, okay, is of course Cooper Kupp. The Cooper Kupp injury situation. He's been ruled out for week one. Thankfully, we've got a correspondent at the facility right now with word on Cooper Kupp being ruled out today. We go live to Anthony. Anthony?
Yeah. Cooper Kupp is officially out. I don't know how long. I mean, they went to see those specialists in Minnesota.
That's normal. That's something a normal NFL player will do.
Specialists
leave the team and go to a different specialist. That makes you feel good.
And it wasn't specialist, it was plural.
Oh, that makes you feel even better.
Right. So definitely feeling real good. In my defense, the real big news. I mean, we knew something happened in the beginning of August, but it wasn't as severe as it was 2 days after our draft, knowingly, right? In the defense, where it was that bad, they start seeking it out.
It was an unfortunate setback that happened 2 days after our draft. There was that setback that in his rehab and his recovery, that they were like, oh shit, something is wrong here. Something went wrong here, and now we need to reevaluate where we're at.
Right, because
and when
he wouldn't have been drafted
there
if we saw that message.
You're breaking up a little bit. We're just going to go back onto the topic, which is the injuries. So Cooper Kupp is going to miss week one.
He's going to miss week one.
Who's
Christian Watson?
Christian Watson with the hamstring. Hollywood Brown with the hamstring.
And Romeo Dobbs.
Christian Watson's definitely going to miss.
Kelsey isn't definitely going to miss, but is a possibility of missing, and that's a nice. I'm not going to say I want him to, but I'd like him to.
Yikes! Talk about fair and
balanced. Me and Danny Mac, week one.
Interesting.
His number one pick, my number one pick, not playing makes it juicy.
Well, Travis Kelce. Interesting that you bring up Travis Kelce, because it seems like Travis Kelce has suffered a hyperextension bone bruise in his knee. Okay, is what you're bringing up here, and his status is certainly in question, not in doubt yet, but in question for week one. Thankfully, we've got someone live on the scene right now. We're going to go to Danny Mac. Danny Mac, Travis Kelce, any updates on your boy?
Not serious. That's good. I don't know if he goes. I think he probably doesn't play.
Does not.
Although I think he's more likely that he plays than I would have thought yesterday. Although I still think he doesn't play. But yeah, luckily I can't. It doesn't look like he's gonna miss more than a game. And if it wasn't on Thursday, it looks like he'd probably be good to go.
Right. I mean,
so it is what it is. It could be a lot worse.
I still remember Danny Mac's, the joy in his voice, the words, "I've never owned Travis Kelce before." After the draft,
yeah.
What's it been like so far, Danny? Is it everything you hoped?
So far, it could be worse.
It sure could.
It could be on the IR.
That's a
he could be seeing specialists in Minnesota.
Exactly.
Yes, unaffiliated with the team.
Yeah, I'd be shocked if he misses more than 1 week. I would be shocked if he doesn't. At this point, when you have to, when you're flying from California to Minnesota 5 days before the game, not good.
And before we let you go, any update on Joe Burrow's calf? He's returned to full practice. How you feeling about the boy?
Locked in, good to go.
Good to go. Awesome.
I mean, Joey B.
It's cool, Joe.
Yeah.
It's Joe Cool. Very good.
Yeah.
Very good. Thank you for your report. I appreciate that. That's good. And you know what else? Mark Andrews dealing with a quad. George Kittle, the groin, right? The adductor.
Kittle is groin.
You got
wide receivers, yeah.
A bunch of
I
different.
think Dobbs is a little question too. So for Watson and Dobbs, McLaurin's toe, I think it's still
McLaurin's toe. Interestingly enough, all non-running backs who got injured. So bucking that trend of all the don't draft running backs because they get injured. Everybody but running backs got injured this preseason. So there you go. All the nerds were wrong. So hurrah.
Yeah,
okay, guys. What? Speaking of 3 weeks, how about I'll see your 3 weeks and raise you an extra week. Where are we standing right now on Jonathan Taylor? Thankfully, we have a man live on the scene right now. We have a Jonathan on the job, Johnny on the spot. John, reporting from the facility, what are your updates on Jonathan Taylor right now?
Well, right now he's on the PUP. So, and he should be back. What's being rumored right now is that there's 3 candidates that want to do a trade for Jonathan Taylor, and some of those teams would be the Miami Dolphins,
breaking news,
the Green Bay Packers, very interesting,
which is weird.
All right,
no,
and
you have Aaron Jones, which isn't just
hold
weird.
on, let him finish.
Sorry. And then number 3, I don't remember the other 2.
The Rams.
The Rams. And in my opinion, the Rams, he's just going to go there and die.
Now, hang on a second. Let me ask you this question. Are these teams that are currently interested or teams that were rumored to have been interested prior to the imaginary deadline that was set?
Yeah, so they've been interested.
They were interested. They're not interested currently. They're not. Hey. John, that was a very misleading report. I'm going to start right there. And then we'll go back to this. What's the confidence that Jonathan Taylor plays this year for you at all?
I think that I'm very confident when he gets back that he's going to be a strong running back too. I think that the injury that happened to him, unfortunate, but I do think that he will play this year. He needs to play because I feel like if he doesn't play this year, we're looking at another Le'Veon Bell situation. So I'm banking on Jonathan Taylor.
Put a number, put a week before the season starts. Put a week number on it. What week do you see him playing back?
Week 4.
Well,
he
week
can't
5.
play week 4. John.
Week 5.
Oh, week 5.
So you think after the PUP he comes right back and he's playing, but it's
correct.
for a new team. Okay, tell me what
it's
team.
It's for a new team. It's going to be the Miami Dolphins.
Oh, interesting, saucy. Danny, any comment on Jonathan Taylor?
I think he probably gets moved. I don't know if it's that. I mean, I don't know if it's by week 5.
I agree. I think it's going to be by the trade deadline, which I believe is week 8.
I mean, it's the Colts. Who the fuck knows?
Anthony,
I think he ends up going to all of those teams. I think are most likely today, but I think there's a good chance he ends up going to a team we're not even talking about right now. Somebody gets hurt and boom, there.
Danny takes trade deadline and the field. I love it. You probably get plus money on the field. Anthony,
probably.
Anthony.
Last thing.
Let me ask you this, just to tie up the Jonathan Taylor talk. How good does it feel to not have to worry about this?
It feels great. I don't want to rub it in to the guy. This guy of me, but it feels great. I wasn't mad about having him or drafting him in the 7th round.
No, you didn't seem mad at all. You seemed totally cool with it.
I was cool with it, and I think that I kind of felt in my jellies that it was going to be one of those. He gets traded while he's on the pup for a team that is in need, and Miami seems to be a high candidate because their running back situation, and they have a division where it's they could fight for a top spot. So
yeah,
that's what I felt when I.
Is interesting because they have Jeff Wilson, who's on IR and comes back at the exact same time that Jonathan Taylor comes
right.
back.
So I really, when I thought that, I was like, I could see it. I can't, but there's also the part being he could go to the trade deadline. He could not play at all. So it was a gamble, and I'm happy it's not there anymore.
Fair enough. Well, speaking of trash, thoughts on the chat feature of the Sleeper app, guys? How do you like this trash talk that's going on in the streets? Have you been paying attention to this? Have you heard about this?
Trash is trash.
The trash is trash. John, comments? You've been pretty
quiet. I'm gonna go with the top 5 vocabulary words.
Go ahead. I love this.
So as everybody knows or doesn't know, I used to be an English teacher, and I'm gonna go with Luis's top 5 vocabulary words in our league.
I love this.
Number 1, fear. For an example, just saw the podcast. Just fear. Vocabulary word number 2, no excuses. Quote unquote. Jonny, no excuses. I heard what you said in the podcast. Ooh. Vocabulary number 3, horrible. After a trade or anybody getting a pickup, a horrible move for every single move. Quote unquote. Horrible move.
That's funny.
Vocabulary word number 4. School. I need to school you. And last but not least, vocabulary word number 5. Rookie. I'm playing with rookies. Quote unquote.
John, that was incredible. That was an incredible report. Thank you for that. And very accurate too. Statistically accurate. I don't see any problem with that. This brings me to our game of the week. Some weeks the episodes just write themselves. When Luis agreed to join the league, his first warning to the commissioner was that he talks a lot of trash. His second warning was the fact that he has attempted to depose one commissioner in his fantasy football career. I was not fazed by either. It didn't take long before Luis made himself a household name across the Always Sunday League. At the draft, no manager was more discussed. No manager was more scrutinized. Frankly, in all the years covering the league, this reporter has not seen a manager take the league by storm the way Luis has. But Luis is not safe from the storm just yet. As luck would have it, Luis would find a foil in our sweet boy, and the two have traded verbal jabs throughout the preseason, with Luis continually upping the ante and Bobby wishing injury on a player, but we don't talk about that. In his bravado, Luis vowed to bench a player when he faced Bobby J and offered $50 to the first team to defeat him within the first 4 weeks of the season. As fate would have it, the league would not need to wait long for this confluence of events. Beer Muscles faces 2023 champ in week 1 of the 2023 Always Sunday fantasy football season, and it's our game of the week. Let's go to John, Anthony, and Danny for the roster breakdowns.
It's going to be good.
Okay, everybody.
And did he confirm to you that he was going to sit?
Oh, know what? Excellent question. I did speak with Luis today, and he did confirm with me that he will be sitting one spot on his team. It might be the defense, but that counts as a player, which I think, it counts as a player. So like, what are we going to say? Yeah. But he said it'll be a player or his defense, but he will sit somebody, and I believe that he will. So he's going to be a man of his word, and he's gonna sit somebody against Bobby J. So
first and last time.
Another little spicy nugget, but what we're going to do when we break down the rosters is just ignore the defenses.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll just call it a win for Bobby. But let's take a look at Patrick Mahomes versus Deshaun Watson. Do we need to spend a lot of time on this one? No, because Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback in the league, and Deshaun Watson is just a gigantic question mark. Right now, that's a humongous landslide victory for Bobby J. Just nonsensical, laughable. Now, here's where it gets interesting. The running backs.
Still Bobby.
It's Bijan, Gibbs, and Brian Robinson against Najee, J.K., and Miles Sanders. Danny says Bobby. Anthony says Bobby. Jonny, I think you're muted.
Bobby.
Got you. I agree. I think Bijan and Gibbs is incredible, and Brian Robinson will add just enough. But I will say, I'll go on record, and I think I'm already on record saying that Harris, Dobbins, and Sanders is no slouch of a running back,
No
depth chart. Those are nice. Those are 3 nice running backs to have that you can roll.
Yeah,
out
but you can't. You got Bijan and Jahmyr Gibbs 1-2 right there as a.
But let's also remember that they're both rookies, and we don't actually know what they're going to do. That's all speculation. So I'll give the edge to Bobby just based off of upside because this is before week 1. But let's not think that this is just some pushover matchup. Drake London, Christian Watson, Jahan Dotson, Treylon Burks versus Tyreek Hill, Calvin Ridley, Mike Williams, and Jalen Hyatt. Okay, so there's some warts here. However, Tyreek Hill and Calvin Ridley are the best 2 receivers that I listed, and they're both.
Well, actually, sorry, you have to make a side note. He has to take Christian Watson out
because he's not playing.
Right.
Good call. So who does he have on his bench?
Yeah, he's probably not going to play. And Williams is probably better than anybody on that team.
Elijah Moore.
Well, I like Jahan
Rashid
Dotson.
Shaheed.
I think that Luis gets the easy nod here for receivers.
Easy.
Even with Jalen Hyatt in the starting lineup, he still gets the easy nod for receivers.
Easy. Tight
end Kyle Pitts versus Jawan Johnson. Interesting. I want to go around the room on this one. Anthony?
You're what are you basing it off of? That's the same situation, right? If you're basing off the running back,
basing it off of fantasy points.
I'm saying like the upside on his running back's okay, but Pitts has talented, but he hasn't really been what you want. Jahan Johnson had a good back end of the year, and I do like Derek Carr coming in this year. Question mark because they have a few tight ends and what they're doing, but I would say more of a even situation. I feel like these guys will finish around the same.
John, where do you stand?
Yeah, I'm actually going to go with a very unpopular one. I'm going to go with Jawan Johnson with this one over Kyle Pitts. Hear me out on this. I just don't trust in Arthur Smith's offense to give Kyle Pitts enough. And I do think that it's going to go down to either Kyle Pitts is going to get the work or it's going to be Drake London. It's going to be really, really huge. I'm going to have to actually say that that is going to be the deciding factor of who wins this matchup.
Danny?
Close. I might go Pitts to a little more upside, I think maybe, but it's pretty much a toss-up.
Fair enough. So I guess we're kind of all even Steven on there. We got a little bit towards the Pitts side. We got towards the Johnson side. I might even lean a little bit towards the Pitts side just based on upside. But I agree with John that the passing volume just won't be there, so that would push me towards Jawan Johnson. So I can clearly not drink the glass that's in front of me, but I can also clearly not drink the glass that's in front of you. We talked about the flexes already, and we're not really going to talk about the defenses, although what it looks like right now is that I'll say this is that Luis might have to bench his 9th round pick in the San Francisco defense. Yeah. So Bobby J might win it outright there just based on the fact that he has a defense playing and Luis might not have a defense playing. But all of these things being what they are, okay, we have Mahomes, we have the quarterback going to Bobby J. We have the running backs going to Bobby J, but, not by a landslide. We have the receivers going to Luis by a landslide, okay? And then the tight ends are sort of a wash. John, how do you have this game shaken out?
Like I mentioned before, I think this is going to go down between Kyle Pitts and the Drake London. I just think it's really interesting that Bobby J really invested in the Atlanta Falcons offense, especially with having Bijan and Drake London. I think the Carolina Panthers defense has some work it has to do. Last year, they were not very good at all. In my opinion, they played hard last year, but they lacked talent. I'm not expecting that the Carolina Panthers lose this game. So I'm going to go with Bobby J very, very, very slightly on this one.
Interesting. Anthony?
Yeah, I think I have to. This is tough because the Christian Watson makes a difference as well. But I do think that the running backs and his quarterback will push up enough with him having to sit a player that Bobby J wins slightly. I mean, this is the closest matchup of the week, or it was at one point.
It was 50-50 for the longest time, and now it's slightly
like
shifted.
a difference of 0.002 or something. You know?
Right. Danny, what are your thoughts?
I guess Bobby, but the wide receiver is a pretty massive gap, and Watson's probably not going to play.
For posterity here, the bench options that Bobby J has to choose from right now are Roshan Johnson, Jalen Warren, Elijah Moore, Rashid Shaheed, and Dalton Kincaid. So he doesn't really have any like super great options to fill in there. But, you know, I wouldn't say that any of us have anybody that we would be excited to throw in because one of our starters was out, at least right now in week 1.
I got to do it.
I know it's not the place you want to be in. So I think we're all just like, it's so funny because I think to tie this all up, we're in a situation where we might have a guy bench a player and we're not just sitting here saying he's going to lose because of how evenly matched these two teams are. And I think that that's great. So I'm very excited to see how this matchup turns out. And that's why it's the game of the week. So let's talk quickly about some other key matchups around the league. Hey, John, what's your key matchup for this week?
So my key matchup of the week is going to be Sizzler versus the Golden Showers.
Interesting. Talk about it.
So Sizzler upgraded his wide receiver room big time with the trades that he did and should go to toe with the reigning always Sunday Football League champion, Mr. Danny Mack. Sizzler added Devontae. Hear this lineup, and it's just sick. Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, and Michael Pittman to go alongside. Obviously, we just talked about Cooper Kupp. Obviously, he's hurt. And Devontae Smith. So, again, going down that murder's row, Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin, Devontae Smith, Michael Pittman.
Don't. Okay. You could have stopped.
All right. So I'm going to go with actually, I have Sizzler now ranked as the #1 wide receiver room in the entire league. And now we're going with Danny Mack with the possibility of Travis Kelce not playing for the Golden Showers. This may hurt the Golden Showers' chances and needs big performances out of Joey B, CeeDee Lamb, and Amari Cooper. And I would say outside of those players, the Golden Showers team is, in my opinion, might be a little bit weak. Although he has a question, I do have a question of why he hasn't put Cortland Sutton in. That's definitely, I would say, managerial things instead of the likes of like a Braden Cooks, Christian Kirk, or Raheem Mostert. With Jerry Jeudy, most likely a big opportunity for him to like be sidelined and Cortland Sutton really show up in week 1 and make a splash performance to possibly put Danny over the edge over the Sizzler.
Interesting. Anthony, any thoughts about your matchup considering your injury situation?
Yeah, I mean, granted that my first round pick is not playing and I'm going against the league champ and it's still going to be close. I feel good. I feel good about the trades I did, all of them, and they made my team better. It's going to come down to, I think, the tight end scenario. You know, it's a good game against the Lions. It's going to be like a freaking 60-point total. And Kelsey's the guy that was going to get a bunch of it. So if he's not there, it makes it really interesting.
Danny, First game back from for the title defense. How you feeling?
No, I feel good. I have a lot. I'm still not sure what direction I'm going to go in. I don't know if I'm going to need a tight end or not, and I probably won't know until like 7 o'clock tomorrow night. The way it sounds like,
Right.
Which is fine. The rest of the team, I'm still not 100% sure what I'm going to do. I do like some of the matchups. I think the high scoring game on Sunday. Mims and Sun make up the whole Denver offense. With Jalen Reed, very good chance he's the number one receiver in Green Bay this weekend. Mostert's obviously last man standing in Miami.
Yep.
So he's obviously going to get the majority of the work there. So I'm not 100% sure. What that comes out of the end. Hopefully the Browns have to score. And Cooper goes off.
Yeah, I mean,
so does Burrow. But yeah, not where you want with your first number one seed out.
As Anthony mentioned before, it could be a situation where we have both of you having your first round picks not available for week 1. But as Danny just noted, we're gonna probably have to wait until like right before the Thursday night game. Like he might even like test it on the field. You know, like test it on the field and see how he feels.
That's what I'm guessing.
Right.
For sure, yeah, he might be, a game time for sure decision.
Right. So,
and then if he does, he might just be
like it's going
lightly worked in. You know what I mean? He if he plays, he'll still get a touchdown, but he's not going to be, at full.
Right. So it might just be smarter to sit him.
Yeah. At 70% capacity, even if he plays at 70% capacity, is probably the number one overall tight end.
Yeah, that's fair. Especially because every other tight end is injured right now.
Not my guy.
Yeah.
Anthony, speaking of your guy, who's your key matchup?
My key matchup, excuse me, let me switch tabs here, is sweep the leg versus the Kirk Stillwater gang. Excuse me.
Talk about it.
I like this matchup here. Your the sweep the legs wide receivers aren't as good as Kirk. Obviously, I gotta find a shorter way. We got a KSG.
KSG is kind of okay. I was just thinking of calling him Stillwater.
I like that. I like that better than KSG. It sounds like a disease or something. Stillwater, best receivers in the league. I mean, arguably for sure. But I like the sweep the legs right here with AJ Brown. Mike Evans, I think, is going to have a great year and get traded and be even better. But I'm going to give the receivers, at least the 3 receivers, to Stillwater. And then as well, the Von Jefferson thing might pay out. He swapped in Von Jefferson with Kupp in. But I think the running backs...
That's a 1-for-1 swap.
Yeah. I'm saying I think he's gonna get some work, but I call those 1-1 maybe. But the running backs, sweep the legs running backs, towers over, in my opinion, just outperforms. Montgomery being the second there, still valuable, still going to get work, but I just think the quarterback and QB, it's kind of like the matchup with Bobby J. It's just like the QB and RBs are much more powerful than the opponents, and I do like Danny Dimes. I think he's going to have an okay year, but I just think this is going to be a really exciting matchup, one of the best ones of the week, and be very, very, very close. And I'm still deciding on. I don't know who's going to win this game.
Yeah, I agree. It's a tough one for me to call, as being part of it, but also because even like the projections have been pretty much 50-50 all week long, and it's tough to call. Like you're saying, I think I have clear advantages at certain positions and clear disadvantages at the wide receiver position.
And tight end I didn't touch, but yes, that's
the tight end's interesting because Andrews is dealing with an injury, but he's also my quarterback's tight end. So there's that, like, if Lamar throws a touchdown to Andrews versus if he throws it to anybody but Andrews, so it's just one of those extra little factors, extra little layers. Like, I have Lamar Jackson and Rashad Bateman at least right now, and he's got Mark Andrews, so that makes it interesting as well. It's tough for me to call. I think it's a really strong matchup. I think it's a worthy key matchup to note. And I don't
can't not be listed.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't have any idea who's going to win this one. It's too close.
And I like it's juicy. It's one of the new guys coming in, who picked up the best available team, and now is going against a previous champion.
He built a team that has a definitive strength. Like, he came in with the zero RB, wide receiver strong, and he's got a strong tight end. He's got a good structure. He did his plan. So now it's a matter of, okay, can this plan work itself out? So we're about to find out. So before we wrap it up, guys, any final thoughts? Any final thoughts on the league or the season before things get kicked off on Thursday?
Yeah, I want to make one note.
Go ahead.
That Luis's homework assignment was grading everyone's draft grades.
Interesting.
Instead, what we got, so we have 12 teams, and he only did draft grades for 3 people, in which he states Bobby J, D, David, not Dave, David, C, Anthony, F.
So, I thought he was just writing our names, yeah.
So, what I looked at in terms of that was, if you had a homework assignment to do a draft grade, buddy, you only answered 3 of the 12 questions. That's a 25%, and he gets an absolute big fat F for his draft grade.
Draft grade. Gosh.
Wow.
Grade.
You get a big fat F, Luis.
Yikes.
You put the Lou in loser.
Yikes.
Yeah, well, I'm taking you to school, buddy.
That's fantastic. I got one last item, one stat for you guys, and then we'll be out the door for this episode. This stat, this is the 11th season. I didn't think there was going to be 2. So how about that? Welcome back. I'm excited, and I will see you next week where it's always Sunday.